Hey folks, Happy New Year. Welcome back. We've been off for the last 2 weeks, and yeah, happy to be back here with you in 2022. I have a new haircut. I always have to announce those things just in case you weren't sure. Um, and I like getting new, cute, sassy haircuts, and then I like to announce them like I'm a 5-year-old in a new party dress, but that's how it goes. What else? We had a couple weeks in Colorado, or we had a week in Colorado, and a couple weeks off, and that was really nice to do. Scott has been in and out of COVID, some of you might know, so that was kind of an adventure as well. He was fine. He had a little bit of a cold, but we had to split up for a little while for a few days while he was recovering. And I was not getting COVID. But now we're back and he's doing well. We also have a January challenge going on at our studio. So some of you are involved in that. And if you are, you want to make sure and put a chat in. You can just say good morning or whatever you want to say, as long as your name is in the chat, either as your user ID or if you have like a weird user ID that doesn't have your name, you can put your name in that way. And Scott and I are also doing a January challenge. We do this kind of every year. And ours is to work out every day. Some people are doing 2 times a week or 3 times a week. And we're doing it every day. And it's really fun and feels really good. Um, so, yeah. So today we thought we'd just kind of move, do some Pilates, do like just, yeah, let's just move around in all sorts of different ways. No major theme. Um, we'll start into that maybe next week. So let's start lying on your back. Here comes a kitten. We'll see how that goes. I know sometimes the kitten just is distracting, and I am not the person that you're looking at, but she went to Colorado. By the way, she's a great traveler. She just sleeps the whole time. So we're on your back, knees bent, feet flat. And let's take a minute to settle into your body. So you can have eyes closed or open. And start noticing your breath, observing your breath, however it is. Shallow, deep, fast, slow, chest, belly, whatever. Just let it move naturally. See if you can not control it, but at the same time be aware of it. And then imagine the weight of your body, that you could really like feel and experience the weight of your body. And I often do this by feeling my bones. My bones, I sort of imagine my bones as the heaviest part of my body. Um, and that's helpful for me for feeling weight, but you might just feel your muscles relax and how that makes more dead weight feeling. Or you might just like have an image of melting into the floor. Or like I said, maybe you imagine your skeleton. Just kind of feel the weight of your skeleton. And then let's do some knee folds. So with all that in mind, just easy breath, inhale, right leg floats up, knee over hip, and exhale, right foot controlled back to the floor. And then inhale, left leg floats up, knee over hip, and exhale down to the floor. So I think of this like heavy pelvis that is just naturally controlled by my abdominals. They just come on. Just let my pelvis relax. I take a breath. I float the leg up and I feel a little work in my lower abdominals. And alternating a couple more. One side, inhale up and exhale lower. And the other side. and then both feet on the floor. So we're going to add a little more to this. But again, in that image of like what's heavy or what's light, sometimes if my abdominals aren't holding me, if I don't have like a good sense of a heavy pelvis, then my rib cage gets light, right? My rib cage kind of pulls up in order to keep my pelvis down. So if I can imagine my pelvis is heavy and my rib cage is heavy and not create this extra like tension or pull, then that's that feeling I get where my abdominals, they just kind of come on, right? Sometimes it's my lower back that gets light and pulled up. So taking that image of heavy bones, heavy skeleton, one leg comes up, the abdominals just do their thing and come on. It's the second leg where sometimes my chest will get pulled up or my back will get pulled up. Exhale, just try to keep it all in place as the second leg comes up. Then first leg down, similar challenge. And then typically the second leg down is a little easier. And then the leg you just put down, start with that leg. Inhale, take a moment, let everything feel heavy as the second leg comes up. Feel how your abdominals will come on. And then that same sort of feeling as the first leg goes down, and then the second leg down. Leg that went down comes back up. Exhale. Second leg. First leg and second leg. And then that becomes your first leg last time. And then take a moment and let everything settle on the floor. Now, same sort of fulcrum as the arms reach up to the ceiling. Now my rib cage, I'm wanting my rib cage to stay heavy. My arms are going to go back overhead, and a lot of times the bottom of the rib cage might get light to take my arms overhead, right? So I think heavy, relaxed, and then with an exhale, arms reaching back, and just keep dropping the lower ribs. And yeah, I can feel some work in my abdominals, but I didn't start from that. I started from thinking of the bones being heavy. And then arms up to the ceiling. Let's take that a few times. You can feel how the shoulders float up a little bit as the arms go back. You make a little more space in the armpits and the chest. And one more of these. And with your arms overhead, this time let's bend your elbows. Take your hands behind your head. Elbows stay a little lifted. Head's the heavy part now. And with an exhale, little heavier pelvis, heavier lower ribs, allows your head to come up, looking into your belly. And coming back down. Breathing in. Exhale. Weighted pelvis, weighted lower ribs, heavy head as well. So I'm using the abdominals. I'm not pulling my head out of my hands, letting my hands really support my head. So my neck can stay pretty relaxed there. Coming back down. Two more. And last time, we're going to stay up this time and add in some knee folding. One leg in to a tabletop position. Now that same work, heavy pelvis, heavy ribs, leave everything in place as the second leg comes in. Let's take one arm forward and pump the arm. So one-handed, one-sided 100. Inhale 5 and exhale. So that arm's reaching forward. It's just a little different in my obliques on the two sides. And then all that same stuff, heavy pelvis, heavy ribs, Really feeling the belly come on a little more now. One more. Take that hand behind your head, one leg down, second leg down, head down. So this is sometimes the modification we get for the 100, but actually it just also is kind of interesting to do. It works the two sides unilaterally, separately, which will create a little difference in the obliques and how you feel it. So see if you notice that. We'll do the other side, pelvis, ribs, using your breath, using your belly. One leg up, stabilizes. The second leg comes up. Other arm reaches forward now. Really have to work this arm that holds my head, that oblique in one way. And this other arm pumping works differently. Inhale, 5. And exhale. Careful not to hang back as you do it. Use your abdominals and the support of your hand to keep you up. One more. Hand behind your head. One leg down, second leg down. And all the way back to the mat. Take a couple nice full breaths in here. Let everything relax. Let your chest open a little more. And the front of the neck release and open. And then take your knees into your chest and come up to sitting. So let's try knees bent, feet flat on the floor. And then don't have your butt super close to your heels, but also don't go so far that you can't really keep your feet on the floor. So just a little bit of space there. And then round back a little bit. So, you could think of being on your hands and knees and doing cat-cow, how you make that round position in your spine. So really feel it from head to tail through there. Now, we're not going to go all the way down in this position. We're just going to roll a little ways back. And then hold it here. Take a breath in. Exhale. Heavy pelvis, draw the ribs in. And then use that feeling to roll up again. We're in that kind of cat-cow position in the spine still. And we just tip it back a little bit. Stay here for a breath. And then exhale. Stay really round. Rolling back. Try to not work in your quads. Really see if you could focus the work into your belly. And then seeing if you can keep your feet really steady, not pulling your toes up, which that's why we don't go all the way down, right? If you go all the way down, you can't really keep your feet weighted. They get a little lighter. It's all right. Where's that edge? Feet are down, hips are off. Deep abdominal feeling instead. One more time. And this time we will go all the way down and then just rest on your back and stretch your legs out again. And then notice if your hips were grabbing, right? You're probably not the only one, but take a moment, let everything relax. And then let's take left leg in, holding the back of your thigh. Nice wide elbows here, not pulling them right in to your waist. So you feel the back open. Again, let's do a little scan. Heavy pelvis, heavy ribs, heavy head. So if you were standing up, this would be a really nice upright posture, right? Everything really lined up here. As you extend your leg up, try to keep that nice postural feeling in the torso. And then bend your knee down. And inhale, float the leg up. Next time your leg goes up, stay there. And then let's just move your foot and ankle, flexing and pointing. Maybe notice all your toes as you do it. Like wiggle them around a little bit. Spread them out a little bit. And then circle around. And then circle around the other way. And then again, see what happens if you actually move your toes a little in the movement. No particular choreography, but just let them move a little. Toes towards the ceiling, long front of the ankle. Heavy head, heavy ribs, heavy pelvis. Let's flex your opposite foot on the floor like you were standing up and standing on that leg. Hands come away by your side. We start leg circles. Inhale over to the right and exhale around and up. Inhale, exhale. Same heavy pelvis, and my abdominals come on. If I just think I want to keep the bones in place, then a lot of times the muscles will figure it out. Once more. And then in reverse. Now, if you're getting more hips or more back or any of that stuff, make your circle smaller. One, see if you can feel how the abdominals will come on to keep your pelvis. Two, second thing you could try, bend your knee. See if that helps. Once more. And then bend your knee, rest your leg all the way down. Hip release after that work. Bring that leg in line. Take your opposite leg in, your right leg in, wide elbows. Find your postural feeling. Pelvis, ribs, head, all lined up, heavy on the floor. And then keep that. Inhale, the leg floats up. Exhale, coming back down. And if you're not sure what I mean by that, you can take a look. Sometimes, especially if your hamstrings are tight, as your leg gets straighter and straighter, it's like the whole posture kind of collapses, the pelvis comes up. This is exaggerated, but to some degree, this will sort of happen to people. So instead of trying to take the leg so far, if that happens to you, just notice where you get to while keeping your posture. Just kind of slowly inch higher and higher as you find it's available. Let's keep your leg up and work the foot a little bit back and forth, flexing and pointing. You have a little bit of toe awareness. Just see what they'll do. Maybe they all move as a unit. Maybe one toe is kind of the alpha toe and tries to lead the most. All those pigs, right? Each have their own little personality. Let's take a circle. A little hard to keep the toes kind of blowing around when you circle the foot, but it's interesting. Move them a little. And then reverse. And then leave the toes long. Finding your abdominals standing on your left leg, flexed foot, hands by your side. Inhale across and exhale, circle. Inhale, reach over to the left. Exhale, circle down around. Not very far open, so the pelvis can stay where it is. And then abdominals can support that. Breath can support that. One more. And in reverse. Last one. And bend your knee, relax that hip. Let it open up. And then knees into your chest. And take a rock up to sitting. All right, so for rolling like a ball, and some of the different things we'll use to prep for rolling like a ball, start with your knees together and your feet together. You don't have to be sitting fully upright. I kind of like to look at my feet, so I'm sitting up a little more. Start with just the V shape. Take your toes apart and make the V shape with your feet. And for me, automatically my knees opened, maybe for you too. Now bring it all back together. Now you don't have to do that. It is possible for feet to go out without knees opening. It's kind of an interesting movement to know. Rolling like a ball, we take the feet and the knees open. Try to open them the same amount, so they're kind of in the same line. And then I'm going to scoop my butt a little forward so I can round my spine a little more, kind of curled under on my hips. And then again, like that cat-cow position, see if you can feel the roundness through your whole spine, head to tail. And then see where your hands land, either on your knees, your shins, your ankles. Where do they kind of easily fall? And then keep drawing like we did earlier when we were rolling back and forth. Keep that feeling of a round spine. You tip a little backwards, your heels barely come off the floor, like you were going to slide a little pamphlet under your heels, only about that far. I know that's something we're all doing so commonly, putting pamphlets under our heels, but you could. And then keep that feeling, that kind of cat-cow, cat feeling, round spine. You tip the whole thing back till the balls of your feet come off. Now you're in a little balance. And then just like we were doing earlier with the feet on the floor, it's kind of that same motion. We're going to tip the whole thing backwards, but now your feet are off the floor and they're coming with you. And then try to tip the whole thing forward until your feet are just almost touching the floor, but not quite. I like to call this rocking chair. So like you were a rocking chair, someone sat at you and they leaned back, you would stay the same, right? You would tip backwards, but you wouldn't change your shape at all. And then as they leaned forward, you would come forward, but you wouldn't change your shape at all. And your pelvis is that nice kind of curved rocker. Easy neck. So this is an excellent exercise. You could stay with this, especially if you have any sort of stuff with your neck, any sort of osteoporosis or something. This is really the way you want to do rolling like a ball. But if you don't, you want to try that fuller movement of rolling like a ball. We'll take this second time through. You could take the option of rolling back onto your upper back and coming up. Now, same thing, you're just a rocker that got stuck in a hurricane and tipped over backwards, but you don't change your shape, right? You still keep that very clear shape as you go back and forth. A couple more. Now your whole spine has to be that bowed edge of the rocker, right? Rocking over the whole spine. Last one. And then relaxing that. All right, so last thing, maybe last couple things. We'll see how much time we have. Let's take one leg out. If you're mirroring me, you're taking your right leg out. Go ahead and leave the toes long there. And then left knee bent. Now I'm going to take my opposite hand and hold the knee. So I'm reaching across. So right hand to left knee. My same hand goes to my ankle. And then I'm going to do that same kind of cat-cow position. I'm going to do a slow roll back, but not take the head down. The head's going to stay off the floor. Lift the right leg off the floor, pretty good amount, right? So it's like my foot and my knee are really close together here. And then switching the legs on that angle. Inhale for 2 switches and exhale. Keeping the head up. Now, You could do your hands behind your head if that helps your neck, or you could do the head down. Inhale for 2. Exhale. One more set of those. Inhale for 2 switches. And then both knees come into your chest. Lower your head to the floor. All right, so we did earlier, we did that overhead arms movement, right? Where you kept the ribs in place, you floated the shoulders up, and you created a little more space in the chest to reach the arms back, right? Remember that? We're going to try that same thing with the head up. Now, like I said, if you want to keep your head down, you can do it with your head down if it's a lot on your neck. And it's just fine. But if you want to try it with your head up, we're going to play with that. So arms are up to the ceiling. Exhale. You could also do a one hand at a time version. I think you could play around with it. So I'm really looking up. I'm actually going to grab my legs, lift myself up a little more. So really find that place, heavy pelvis, abdominals holding you, and then just see what it's like to reach the arms up just out of your peripheral vision. Now, instead of going straight back, they're going to circle around. Let's grab onto your legs, pull yourself up again, settle into place. And then reach the arms up. Keep sinking the ribs as you reach just out of your peripheral vision. And then around. 2 more. You feel how as the arms get a little farther back, you have to work harder in your upper abdominals so you don't fall backwards. Just your arms move. 1 more. And lower your head down. Okay, so we're going to add some legs to that. While we do that with the arms, we're going to have the legs go out and in, back and forth. So you got a lot of options here. You could have your head down, moving your arms. You could have your head up, moving your arms. You could have your head up, moving your arms and your legs. You could do one arm. So play around how you want to, depending on how your neck feels. I'm going to show the full version of double leg stretch. So we come up, knees are in, pelvis is heavy, hands are on your shins. Both legs reach out. Find that feeling of ribs connecting and circle around and in. So the head doesn't fall backwards as the legs reach. 3 more. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more time. And then lowering your head down and relax. Yeah. So earlier when we did the 100, I used the term unilateral, that one side was working and then the other side was working. And then we also had this idea of bilateral, both sides working together. So we just did that same thing with the single leg stretch and the double leg stretch. We did unilateral, the 2 sides do different things. And then we did bilateral with double leg stretch, 2 sides working together. It's a really good thing to do when you're training, just working it in different ways. We're going to do one more unilateral, one side and then the other, single straight leg stretch. So let's start with your hands by your side, and that kind of heavy pelvis feeling again. Float the legs up. Remember when we were working on your posture? Don't let it go to a point where everything pulls up. Feel that nice posture through the back. And then really find the feeling in your abdominals. Now, I'm going to do it with the head down. I actually think it's pretty hard with the head down. Really find your ribs connected in the front, pelvis connected. One leg lowers down, not too far, just kind of 45 degrees, and then back up. And then other leg lowers down. And notice how it'll want to pull your chest up or it'll want to tighten your neck. Try to keep all that in place. Alternating side to side. 2 more sets. And last set. And then bend your knees in. And take your feet down. And go back to the very first thing we did. Just settle everything, find your breath. And then bring yourself up to sitting. All right, so there's our sort of basic Pilates for today. Let's see what Scott has for us as we switch off.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back. As Collette shared with you, I had a little bit of COVID the other week, and pretty much all the symptoms are gone now. So I feel very fortunate, very grateful for the vaccines and all the researchers that helped them uh, get into reality. So let's start off in standing and feet comfortably hip width apart. I thought we'd start with a little bit of strengthening work for your legs, for your glutes, and also for your back. So let's begin like you're going to hug a big tree. Those of you in the drift list, maybe think about hugging big, beautiful bur oak. And then keeping your collarbones, your chest open. With the exhale, bend your knees, let your shins come forward. And then inhale, come on back up. Again, like that. Let's start with a little movement, not so deep a knee bend. And then a few more. Now you can maybe see that as I come down, my torso does incline forward. But make sure that that is a secondary movement. So primary movement is what you do in your lower body. And the upper body moves because it has to. And it's not uncommon that people end up bypassing their knees. And it's almost like they're taking a bow at the end of a performance. So there's a little bow, but the primary movement in the legs. All right. So keeping your collarbones broad, chest open, little deeper bend. And especially as the bend gets deeper, what we see is a lot of times people will bypass bending their knees and end up folding their torso way forward. That puts undue stress on the lower back. And then you bypass the great benefits of strengthening your knees and your glutes and your legs. Two more. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Last one. Then arms down. Bring your hands then to your hips. Take your right foot back. And now a variation of that theme. We're to bend both knees. Exhale, bend both knees. Lower down. Inhale, come on up. Now this time torso stays vertical. And for a lot of people in this single leg movement, the limiting factor is the back foot, big toe. And if you have that arthritis, it's really common, then maybe you don't bend down so far. But if this movement is everything's cool in terms of your feet, big toes, and knees, explore going a little deeper down. Two more. And step back to standing. Few breaths here. Then the second side, hands to your hips, now left foot back. Start with a little bend. Exhale down. Inhale up. So this is a little different than what you maybe are used to in yoga. We're bending both knees, left knee and right knee. And this is particularly beneficial movement for strengthening your quadricep muscles in a harmonious way. If all is cool with your knees, your feet, especially your big toes, feel free to go deeper down. Couple more. And then back to standing. So now let's work a little bit more directly on mobility. That was mainly about strength. Now let's change the focus to a bit more about mobility. Take your left foot, step it back, very similar to what we just did. Hands on your hips, just exactly like we just did. And now back leg, left knee stays straight. With the inhale, lift your left heel to propel forward. And with the exhale, descend that heel to draw back. Forward, back, forward, back. Couple more. Now, next time that back heel lifted, let's pause there. And note where your pelvic bowl is. See if you can keep your pelvic bowl right here where it is. As you telescope your left heel back and down to help open up the front of that left hip, to help release that iliopsoas muscle. Then you did a lot of really great work on the floor, talking about keeping those lower ribs connected to the belly. And keeping that dynamic integration as you bring both arms forward. Keep that integration as you float both arms up. Let your chin float up too. And back to standing. Few breaths here. Then the second side. Take your right foot back. Now, in terms of the COVID, I'm kind of suspicious I had Delta because it impacted my sense of taste. Let's go ahead and add the movement in. Right heel lifts, inhale forward, exhale back. So the reason I mention that here is that my breathing was also a little bit impacted. So I had a few days, about 4 days, where breathing was a little bit raspy. There was stuff going on in my lungs. So that's reminded me to not take breath for granted. A couple more. Next time that back heel is lifted, let's pause there. Note where your pelvic bowl is and see if you can keep your pelvic bowl placed where it is to release your right iliopsoas muscle. Extend that right heel back and down. Connect thorax to abdomen. Keep that integration as you bring both arms forward. As you float both arms up. As you breathe, Invitation to appreciate the freedom to breathe. And then back to standing. Now let's make our way to the floor. Use the exhale to knit your ribs. Keep that connection. Inhale, arms up. You did something similar to this on the floor. Something you did on the floor, remember rolling your spine. Exhale, roll your spine down. Start from your head. And whether your fingertips touch the floor or your hands rest on your shins, either way, let your head hang. And with the next exhale, reach the crown of your head forward. And then step your feet back, the head down dog. Let's take a few breaths here. Then come on down to your knees. And then all the way down onto your belly. So once you're on your belly, place your hands right next to your armpits. Knit your ribs to your belly. And breathe. The simple joy, freedom to breathe. Now let's create a little bit of length in the spine. Stretch your toes back behind you. At the same time, extend the crown of your head forward in front of you. And let that toes back, head forward, create length in your neck. Lengthen your lower back. And length between your shoulder blades. Then maintaining that sense of length in your spine, from tailbone to skull, bring your hands forward in front of you. Hands a little bit wider than your shoulders. Elbows a little bit bent. Elbows a little bit lifted up off the floor. Then press your hands down into the floor to lift your head and your chest. Continue stretching your toes back, the crown of your head forward and up. And breathe. Now, if you want a little bit more challenge, try lifting your lower ribs up off the floor. And then come on down. Place hand on top of hand, and then rest your forehead on your hands. And remember that cue of letting your ribs rest heavily into the floor? Now the same cue, let your front ribs fully sink into, settle into the floor. Now as you continue to rest your ribs heavily into the floor, breathe deeply. Let that breath fully infuse your back ribs. Rest your forehead into your hands. Rest your chest into the floor. And breathe deeply. One more deep breath. And bring your hands back to your armpits. And this can be good to help build strength, arm strength, shoulder strength, chest strength, core strength. Slowly push up. And come into hands and knees. So start in hands and knees with a neutral spine. Hips aligned with shoulders, ears aligned with shoulders and hips. And in a moment, we're going to create spine flexion, or the yoga cat pose. Rather than starting with your chest, start with your belly. Lift your navel up toward the ceiling. Create lumbar flexion. Keep lifting your navel up, 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 up. And then let your rest of your spine continue that trajectory. Let the crown of your head move toward your tailbone. Spine flexion. So Collette uses this image quite a bit, cat pose. Now, almost all of us make most of the bend in the upper back. Keep lifting your navel toward the ceiling to create more freedom in your lower back. And then we'll hold here for kind of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And back to normal neutral hands and knees. Turn your toes under. And move back to yoga pose, head down dog. We'll take a few breaths here. And then come on down to your knees. And now onto your back. So on your back, let's start off with heels comfortably close in. Then take your navel lightly to the floor. Now, do you feel how that presses your lower back into the floor? Now see if you can do this from your belly muscles rather than tightening your pelvic floor muscle. So there was a cue that was all the rage a number of years ago, tuck the tail. Thankfully, we got past that. I think, mainly got past that. Because remember, tuck the tail is a panic response in mammals. See if you can find the good engagement of your abdominal muscles without initiating the panic response of tuck the tail. And now slowly roll your spine up from tail to skull as you move into the bridge position. And then slowly roll down, segment by segment, piece by piece. Now let's add the breath to that. Let's do a full breath to come up. Inhale, exhale to come up. One more. And once you've come down, come up. Sit up. Cross your legs. If you find in sitting cross legs that you're on the back of your pelvis, sit up on a little bit of something, maybe a cushion, maybe a blanket, maybe even sit up in a chair. Now, in a moment, we're going to do some spinal twists. But before we do the spinal twist, let's take a little bit of time to loosen up your neck. With your nose, create little infinity signs. You know, like you'd see an infinity sign in a book, or it's kind of like a number 8 that fell over sideways. Now make sure you go both directions with that infinity sign. Go ahead and let your ears move side to side and up and down. So this becomes a whole head movement. Now let that movement trail off. Maybe that gave you a little bit more ease in your neck. Now what we're going to do is a trickle down twist. So we're going to imagine that each spine segment, just like you can see in Mr. Bones, has spinal segments, is going to contribute to the rotation. Let's start by turning to your right. Remember, a mirror image of you. So from your head, and then sequentially your neck vertebra contribute, upper back vertebra contribute. Left hand comes across, right hand behind. And a few breaths here. And back to the middle. Let's take a few moments to work with releasing the neck again, making your little infinity signs. Let that movement trail off. And now trickle down twist to the second side. Start from the top, move down sequentially vertebra by vertebra. And then back to the middle. So now taking your feet out in front of you. Knees don't have to be straight. Bring your knees towards straight. As best you can, release tension in your hip flexors. Now we're going to do trickle down flexion. So start with your head nodding forward and let sequentially each vertebra contribute to that front flexion. And steady breathing. So we've done trickle down twist, we've done trickle down flexion, and now do trickle up, return to the vertical. All right, that looks like our time. So really great to see so many of you coming through in the chat. If you're taking part in the January challenge, please make sure that you're in the chat so that we know you're here with us. And before we part for the day, any comments, any questions? Nope. Seems like it's all quiet out there. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the evening, morning, afternoon, whenever you're watching this. And we'll do this again next week. Bye bye.